Hello, I'd like to welcome you to our on-demand webinar presented by Professional Services Marketing. Today we're going to talk about the fact that you are the CEO of your practice. Now you need to think like an entrepreneur. It's my pleasure to share this information with you. So who am I? I'm Terrie Wheeler and I'm the founder and president of Professional Services Marketing. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I was an in-house law firm marketing director for about 12 years before I started professional services marketing almost 20 years ago. It's been a long time. Currently, I have a very strong focus in ethical marketing strategies and am serving as the vice chair on the executive committee for the Minnesota Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility. I also have the pleasure of presenting and speaking to the third-year law students at 3 different law schools in the Midwest, and I teach topics on, of course, marketing and client service. I also do a number of CLEs across the country for various different bar associations and have my master's degree from the University of St. Thomas here in St. Paul. Finally, I have a syndicated column that I do for Attorney at Law magazine, which is based in Minnesota, but it is syndicated in 22 different markets across the United States. So with that, now you know who's speaking to you. Let me do a brief introduction of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be identifying what does it mean to be an entrepreneurial professional and how do you become one. Every service provider that I've worked with would like to think of themselves as entrepreneurs. And if they don't, they should. So let's talk about what it means to be an entrepreneurial professional. One of the first strategies that's important for you to grasp is really knowing and understanding the difference between sales and marketing. Many professionals meld the two as if they are one, and I want to share with you why they're different. First of all, marketing is all about the messages that you place out in the marketplace. It's your website, it's your social media, it's your LinkedIn profile. It's everything you're doing out in the marketplace to make the statements about you and about your firm. Now, sales, on the other hand, is about asking the right questions. Sales is about being in front of a wonderful prospective client and having an opportunity to either have them sign on to work with you or to become a really great referral source for you. So I want you to think about this for a minute. If you were out there only doing marketing without supporting your marketing efforts with any sales, it would be way too expensive. You would be probably paying to advertise. You would be throwing messages out there, but you wouldn't be backing it up with any sales efforts. And that would be too expensive. On the other hand, if you are out there trying to build relationships with your prospective clients and referral sources without any marketing, you would likely sit down with someone and they would say, now, I haven't heard of you. Tell me more about who you are. So the whole goal of marketing is to soften the marketplace so that when you're sitting down in an actual sales call, you have the ability to ask great questions to uncover what their need is. So marketing without sales is really too expensive. And if you only focus on your sales initiative without marketing to back it up, it's just too difficult. So as I mentioned, marketing includes messaging, branding, reputation management, building your base of contacts. Sales, on the other hand, is when you're really identifying who it is you need to talk to. You're qualifying your prospective clients. You're creating proposals, and you're closing deals and landing new business. So an entrepreneurial professional is someone who truly takes responsibility for the success of his or her practice. They don't look at other people and say, why aren't you making my practice a success? They are literally willing to let the responsibility of building a successful practice rest squarely on their shoulders. One thing that entrepreneurial professionals have in common is the desire to learn what that really means. And I want to share with you a book that I read as I was starting my company over 20 years ago. And it's called The E-Myth. And E stands for entrepreneur. The myth is that just because you're really skilled and gifted at doing something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to turn that into a successful business. Michael Gerber is truly an entrepreneurial guru, and I highly recommend. He has many different versions of his book, The E-Myth and The E-Myth Revisited, and notably, he has created the E-Myth Attorney as well as the E-Myth Financial Advisor. So I encourage you. Each book is about 250 pages long. Now, it's very dense reading, and you're going to learn a lot from these books, but I encourage you, if you're interested in becoming more of an entrepreneurial professional, to pick up the book that's appropriate for you and dedicate some time to reading it and write in it. Take notes, dog-ear the pages, make this your working business plan. And I promise if you read this book, you will learn a lot and you won't regret reading it. So what I hear from a lot of our clients here at Professional Services Marketing is, well, great, of course I want to be an entrepreneur, but how do I do that? What are the steps that I have to take in order to become more of an entrepreneur versus just offering professional services? First and foremost, it's really important, as I mentioned before, to take responsibility for your practice. You are the person who is responsible for the success of your practice. It isn't about your managing partner or supervisor or your department chair or your administrator. It's not about anyone else but yourself. So you know that if you work really hard, you're successful, you make a lot of money, and it benefits you and your family, versus hoping and waiting that there are others in your firm who are going to send business your way, or people who you've met once or twice who are just going to open the floodgates and send referrals to you. In this case, it's really important, I think, to be more of a control freak. And I laugh because I think I fit that mold very, very well. But it's important for you to realize that this is your practice. Whether you're in a firm or truly have your own business, it's important for you to view that the success of your future rests squarely on your shoulders. Also, it's important for you to have mechanisms in place to hold yourself accountable. You have to be pretty darn motivated to just get up every single day and work with tireless effort toward sometimes amorphous goals. But if you have some tools to hold yourself accountable, it's going to be a lot easier. So one of the things that we recommend to our clients is that you track your sales opportunities. Remember, there's sales and there's marketing. And what we're talking about right now is a tool to track your sales activities. So what you do is you identify your best top 5 or 10 current clients, prospective clients, referral sources. And these are the people that you're going to build that marketing plan around. And in order to hold yourself accountable, you need to identify who are these individuals? What type of work will I be able to generate with them? Take a look at the column that says revenue potential. It's really important when you're thinking about your practice as a business to tie revenue figures to your goals. Instead of just saying, well, there are all these people that I want to build relationships with, actually tie some revenue goals to your sales activities so that you truly have something to measure. And then always, always with your opportunities, make sure that you have a next step. You always want to, when you're meeting with someone, you want to think about what's my win out of this lunch or this coffee meeting? What do I want to do next? How am I going to follow up? So this is part of holding yourself accountable, is to track your sales activities. Another tool that we use is called a contact action plan. It's very basic, it's very simple, but what you're doing is you're focusing here on your top 10 lists. So you're looking at who are the strongest people that I have that are past clients, because there are sometimes new business opportunities with past clients, as you know, but you have to think about them and re-engage with them if you're going to hope to reinvigorate that relationship. You look at your current clients and you say, who might I be able to deliver more services to? You look at a few prospective clients that don't know you yet but probably should. And then don't forget about that very important group of contacts that include your referral sources, both your current referral sources as well as those you would like to develop relationships with. So those are two tools designed to help you stay accountable to your practice. Number two, don't end up owning a crazy job. Now let me paint a picture for you. So let's say you're a lawyer in a large firm and you think life is going to be so much better if I can just leave the craziness of this large firm and go out and start my own practice. And that's a great goal. And I encourage people to do that because by and large, when you're an entrepreneur, you control the quality of your life. You control how hard you work. You control what you do. You control the hours you work. But what you don't want is to end up simply owning a crazy job. You either view yourself as an entrepreneur, or what ends up happening is you go out on your own, you hang a shingle, you have great loyal relationships. All of your clients are going to follow you because clients hire you as an individual. They're not necessarily hiring your firm. So you're going to have all kinds of work. And before you know it, you're going to be like this picture, and you're going to be sitting there at 1 o'clock in the morning with your laptop trying to get caught up. That is not the goal of a successful entrepreneur. We don't want you to own a crazy job. We want you to develop processes that are going to help you build an enterprise versus just owning a crazy job. So the third tip that I have for you is all about developing your systems and processes. When you own a firm, you need to determine how you do things. What is your way of creating a marketing plan and developing new business? What is the process surrounding how you do your client intake? So what's the process when somebody walks into your office and your receptionist greets them? There should be a process for everything, and that's what's going to put the stamp on your business that you are truly an entrepreneur, because you're creating business processes that are replicable. You're going to look at absolutely everything in terms of, again, developing your marketing plan, how you engage with your clients and prospects, how you measure and evaluate your client service. How do you proactively communicate with your contacts? How are you out there building name recognition in the marketplace and integrating relevant technologies? These are all processes that create the your firm name here way of doing things. Another really important part of this is making sure that you're building a team to support you. Now, if you're leaving a large firm and going out on your own, you are likely going to have at least one person who's going to be there to support you. And my encouragement to you is to empower that person to learn what your replicable processes are and be that person who can deal with clients in your absence so that your clients feel the same kind of support as if you were there talking with them. So building a team to support you is a very, very important part of being an entrepreneur, because the bottom line is you just can't do it all on your own. Now, this is an important concept for any of you who are familiar with Jim Collins and his book called Good to Great. There's a concept out there that has you working on your practice versus working in your practice. This is a little bit like what we were just talking about in terms of you don't want to just own a crazy job that feels out of control and clients have demands and you're working 24/7. That's not being an entrepreneur. And again, having that team to support you is going to help. But what you want to be able to do as often as possible is to step up, step back, step away from the day-to-day operations of your firm so that you can work on your practice, so that you can create some of those replicable processes that if you're just working in your practice, you're never going to be able to find the time to do because you'll just be crazy busy all of the time. But the key to your success as an entrepreneur is carving out that extremely valuable time. Just like financial advisors will say, when you're saving for retirement, the first thing you do is you pay yourself first. Well, it's the same with being an entrepreneur. You work on your practice. You step back and you take that time to create those systems and processes that are going to ensure your success. So that, and everyone on your team needs to do this as well, so that you don't have one person who has all of the knowledge and experience in their head, and what happens if they leave and move on. This is part of working on your practice. And again, the E-Myth books are going to help you tremendously. This is really meant to serve as a bit of a primer in terms of what you're going to learn if you do read one of the E-Myth books, either for attorneys or for financial advisors, or there's an E-Myth for consultants as well. So you want to spend time each day developing your future growth goals. Now, when I do coaching with professionals, one of the things that I tell them is to do something every single day to market their practice. So when we're just talking about the marketing side, again, professionals get busy and they feel like, well, I'm so busy doing this billable work, I don't have time to actually spend marketing. So the same is true for being an entrepreneur. If you spend some time each day working on your practice and developing your future goals, if you do this consistently over time, you will be successful. Now, on to a very important element of being an entrepreneur that we alluded to earlier. It's all about empowering your team. Your goal is to deliver client services as cost effectively and efficiently as possible. And your team is a direct reflection of you. So you want to make sure, number one, that you are hiring exceptional people that you trust, who can work without your micromanagement, who can take care of client issues and calls that come in when you're gone, working with other clients, maybe you're in court. Either way, you're out of the office. So it's so important to have people on your team that you trust implicitly to be able to deliver the services that are your way of doing things, even when you're not in the office. So make sure that the people you bring into your business are top-notch A-level performers who are going to reflect your personal values and goals and be able to convey those to your clients in your absence. You can only be in one place at a time, and so your team is going to be that glue that holds the mortar that holds the bricks of your practice together. Now, another concept that you should be thinking about as an entrepreneurial business owner is your profit and loss. And I can honestly tell you from the work that I've done over the years with all kinds of professionals, including financial advisors and lawyers, is that people don't usually think about their professional practice from a profit and loss standpoint. But as you'll see from reading the E-Myth, it's important that you identify your projected income, that you really know and understand the structure of the expenses that you're paying for. It always amazes me when I talk to professionals, even in small firms, and they just simply don't have a good feel for the income coming in and the expenses that are flowing out, which is really your cash flow. So it's very important, regardless of your area of practice, that you adopt a focus on knowing and understanding some level of accounting. You don't have to know how to create profit and loss statements, but you certainly need to be able to track your incoming revenue, track your expenses, and be able to look objectively and ask yourself, am I operating a profitable practice? How do you know this? Well, you know this because you look at the amount of time it takes you to deliver services. You look at your time, you factor in the time and expense of the people who support you, your support team, as well as the overhead expenses that you have. If you have an office and you have computer equipment and you have a website where you have to pay for website hosting, it's all about maintaining control over not just the income coming in, but the expenses that you're paying so that you can have a positive cash flow and ultimately build equity in this business that you're working so hard on. If you're if you're dedicating your heart and soul to building this business, you need to apply these entrepreneurial skills to ensure that you're truly building an enterprise as opposed to just working in a crazy job. So you also want to review your personal contribution. Now, if you're in a small firm, you can still view yourself as an entrepreneur because you're out there building relationships with clients and referral sources who are loyal to you. Whether you're in a firm or on your own, you need to maintain control over your personal revenue contribution that you're making to the firm. So what does that look like? In our practice, we call this identifying your real business development goal. So what you look at is, what do I want to do in 2016, 2017, 2018? What amount of money do I want to generate? You look at that annual goal, and then probably in October or November of the previous year, you're going to have a pretty good handle on those clients that you're working with who are going to spill into the next year. And you need to take a look at that planned revenue, because too many times at the beginning of the year, professionals will say, well, I just need to generate a significant amount of new business, but they don't actually put pen to paper and figure out, what do I want to achieve in terms of revenue? What do I already have coming in, likely, if things don't change? You do have to look a little bit into your crystal ball to look at your planned revenue. But you subtract that out. There's certain clients you know are going to generate revenue for you in the next year. And so you basically subtract that revenue that you're pretty sure is going to come in from your overall annual revenue goal, and that gives you your real revenue goal. So if you want to earn $500,000 and you realize, gosh, I've got some really good clients who are going to continue their work, and that comes out to about $280,000 or $290,000. Well, that means you have approximately a gap of $200,000, and that would be your real goal. I think it's very important as an entrepreneur to have a complete handle over your financials. And it's not enough to just say, I want to grow significantly, I want to attract new clients and generate more revenue. You need to put a number to what more means for you. And this is one really basic way in which you can do that. Now, let's talk about managing your workload. This can be a real challenge for entrepreneurs. It truly is about how do you accomplish a lot of activities with never enough time in a day to do this. And I have helped a number of my coaching clients employ a very simple process that, if you think about it, it's going to really revolutionize how you manage your workload. So with that and the big drum roll, what do I mean here? I took a time management class a number of years ago. We're talking 20 years ago. And the strategies have really stuck with me. And when I start to feel overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get all of this done? I have way too much. Look at the paper, look at the emails, look at everything that's stacking up. What am I going to do? I always fall back to this great basic template that is called do it, dump it, delegate it, or decide when. So it kind of goes without saying, if you can do the task in less than 5 minutes, just bite the bullet and get it done and do it now and get it off your desk. So if that task does not fall into that category where you can do it in 5 minutes or less, you may realize when you look at it, I don't even need this anymore. Or, gee, I was holding on to this conference brochure thinking I might go to it, but look, it was last week, so I can just throw this away. I can dump it. So a lot of the things that you kind of end up procrastinating might be able to just fall into that dump it pile. Then you don't even have to do it. You deal with it. The next thing that you have to do is, if it is something that's really important, but it can be done by somebody on your team, remember this wonderful team that we talked about, you might be able to delegate that task. And if there is someone who can complete that task for you or even get it started, many people that I've worked with, let's say you're going to do an article or you have a presentation that you're preparing for. If you can delegate some of the initial elements of that, someone who can draft the outline for you, someone who can start working on the PowerPoint for you. At least when you pick it up, you're delegating part of it, and then you're picking it back up, and it's a lot easier to get it done if you have someone that you can delegate to. I'm a huge believer in the fact that every professional needs to be working at their best and highest use level. So if it's something that you can delegate, you should delegate it, because it's important for you to free up your time to do the things that entrepreneurs need to do. Now, if you pick up something on your desk or you see an email and you realize this is going to take time, I can't just do it, dump it, or delegate it. I need to decide when I'm going to do it. And the key to this strategy is that you schedule time on your calendar as to when you're going to complete this task. It might be something so big that you have procrastinated it because you just don't know when you're going to get this huge chunk of uninterrupted time to do whatever task it is. But my recommendation is literally go into your Outlook calendar or your Google Calendar and literally block out the time. It might take 6 hours. We'll block out 2 hours over 3 days and decide when you're going to do the task. I always find that if things are piling up for me, if I go into my calendar and I literally put when I'm going to work on something on my calendar, I do it. It's just like I would never miss a client meeting or a client call. So when I'm looking at my calendar and I see I've allocated 2 hours to developing a particular marketing plan, I will do it because I know I have blocked the time off in my calendar. So hopefully the concept of do it, dump it, delegate it, and decide when will help you become more of the entrepreneur that you are. Let's look at tip number 8. Why is it important to have a plan? Well, let me tell you that for us at Professional Services Marketing, we're zealots about the importance of planning before tactics. You need to think about things like, what are your overall objectives of your business? Again, we talked about this, but what are your revenue goals? What are your cost projections so that you can manage the revenue and the cost and the expenses? What are the messages that you have to your target audiences? And finally, what are the tactics that you're going to do in support of this plan of yours? Now, this is a very, very basic version of what it is to develop a strategic business or a strategic growth plan. But our point and my point is that you absolutely have to commit to having a plan. You have to have a roadmap. I know this sounds trite. You have to have a roadmap if you're going to end up in the right place. You need to give that thought to, what is it that I want to accomplish? And let me just suggest that objectives are the overarching goals that you have about where you want to be. Objectives should be measurable. So therefore, let's talk about referral sources. I want to develop new referral sources. Well, an objective for you would be to develop 3 referral sources in the following areas or industries by July 15th of XYZ year. So objectives need to be specific and measurable. Then when you jump down to the very last item, tactics are how you meet your objectives. So the most important thing as an entrepreneur when we're talking about how important it is to have a plan is here. You need to have a commitment to taking action. Just like anything, it's not going to happen on its own. You need to commit, you need to hold yourself accountable, and you need to take action. I have heard in my illustrious career of 25 plus years so many excuses about why I haven't been able to do the entrepreneurial things that I want to do or market and grow my practice. I've got too much work on my plate. I don't have enough time. It's too hard. I don't know enough people. There are excuses out there, and you will be able to find the excuses if you want them. But as an entrepreneur, you're the only person who can say, stop, I am not going to make excuses. This is important to me. This is about my future. This is about the future and the success of my ability to provide for my family. I'm not going to make excuses, and I'm going to take action. As I mentioned, the objectives are what you want to accomplish that are realistic and measurable, and then the tactics are going to be how you accomplish those objectives. So for example, let's just think about client satisfaction. Everybody wants to have high client satisfaction, but an example of an objective would be, I want to have client satisfaction in the high 90th percentile. I want well over 95% of my clients to be delighted with the services they receive from us. Well, that's a great objective. It's specific, it's measurable, but how are you going to determine if your clients are in the high 90th percentile of satisfaction with you? Well, one way, tactically, is you can conduct surveys with them. So when you complete a certain milestone or a certain part of your project, you complete that financial plan, you meet that milestone in the process of delivering legal services, or you finish a segment of the work that you've been hired to do, you check in with those clients. And now there are so many tools out there. We like to use SurveyMonkey, and it sounds goofy, but it's a great tool to do what we call end of case or end of matter surveys. So if you touch base with your clients on a fairly regular basis, you're going to be able to identify that, yes, we actually are meeting this objective of having client satisfaction in the high 90th percentile. Let's say your objective is to build relationships with 3 new referral sources. Well, one tactic would be to potentially join an association that attracts your prospective referral sources and write an article for their publication or make a presentation at their annual conference or at one of the monthly meetings. So the objectives are what you want to accomplish, and the tactics are specifically how you're going to do that. And I want you to remember that this isn't necessarily a scare tactic, but if you wait until you have time to market, it will likely be too late. And what I found is that professionals are highly motivated people. They're very, very driven people. They're sometimes perfectionistic people. I can understand this. I happen to be one of those people. And I have always had a challenge with procrastinating things because I think as a high achieving person, what you think is, if I don't have the time to do this now and to do justice to it, I'm going to push it off and I'm not going to do it. So it also goes back to our do it, dump it, delegate it, and decide when matrix. But remember, there's actually help for you. If you feel that you're procrastinating important things, there's a simple book that was written by Brian Tracy, and it's called Eat That Frog. And as you can imagine, it has some great tips on how to stop procrastinating and how to get things done that you really need to get done in order to be the successful entrepreneur that you are. So with that, I encourage you, because this is an on-demand webinar, but I'm leaving this slide up here for a couple of minutes because we here at Professional Services Marketing are really committed to you and we want to help you. And if you have a question about anything that I've been talking about, I hope that you will call me directly. There's my direct dial line, or that you will send me an email, or that you will visit our website. On psm-marketing.com, we also have an archive of all of the webinars that my business partner Christy and I have done over the past 3+ years. So there's a wealth of free information on our website for you. So I hope that this webinar has been helpful for you, for all of you professionals who know that you want to be a successful entrepreneur. I hope that you've gained 2 or 3 little tidbits that you will be able to apply to your practice tomorrow. And I hope one of the first things that you do when you finish this webinar is to go to Amazon or go to your local bookstore and purchase a copy of the E-Myth. I promise I'm not on commission or anything. It's just a book that was very instrumental to me when I founded my business 20 years ago. And the strategies and tactics and objectives of that book have stood the test of time, and they're still applicable now. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time, and I look forward to having you attend some of our other on-demand webinars. Have a great rest of your day.